Life doesn't really get easier, we just get stronger. But strength doesn't come from lifting weights, it comes from lifting ourselves when life pulls us down. Every morning when we wake up, we have two choices: to give up and go back to sleep, or to get up and build the mind that won't quit. We often look around and admire those who never seem to give up, the workers who grind through their forever wondering days, those who keep showing up despite noise, despite chaos, despite failures. And we think maybe they're just built differently. But the truth is, they're not born different, they just train their minds differently. In a world full of distractions, doubts, and disappointments, the most powerful thing you can ever build is not your career, not your image, not your bank balance, but your mind. Because once your mind is unshakable, life's storms will only make you stronger. Let's understand today, my friends, how to build a mind that won't quit. A mind that keeps working even when the world stops watching. A mind that turns noise into silence and progress into peace. Silence the noise to hear your inner strength. That sounds simple, doesn't it? But in truth, it's one of the hardest things to do in today's world. The noise is everywhere. It's not just the sound of traffic or the buzz of notifications on your phone. It's the noise of comparison, the noise of opinions, the noise of fears that whisper, "You're not good enough." From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by noise that tells us who to be, how to live, and what success should look like. And without realizing it, we start living in a world so loud that we can no longer hear our own voice. When the world gets too noisy, we lose the ability to think clearly. We begin reacting instead of reflecting. Have you noticed how quickly people respond these days? Someone says something we don't like, and before taking a breath, we react emotionally instantly. But a powerful mind, a calm mind, doesn't rush, it pauses, it listens. It chooses silence over chaos. Because in that silence, the mind resets, the heart steadies, and the soul begins to speak. Imagine a person sitting beside a still lake. The water is so calm that you can see your reflection in it. Now, imagine throwing a stone into the lake. The ripples disturb the reflection, and you can no longer see yourself clearly. That's what noise does to the mind. When your mind is constantly reacting, constantly absorbing the chaos of the world, you lose the clarity to see who you truly are. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. It's that quiet space within where your wisdom lives, where you find your strength, where you meet yourself again. We live in a generation that glorifies noise. People think if you're quiet, you're weak. If you pause, you're wasting time. But look at nature. The tallest trees don't make the loudest sound, yet they stand firm through every storm. The ocean doesn't shout, yet its depth is infinite. Similarly, a calm mind is not empty, it's full of power. When you learn to silence the noise, you begin to hear the voice that says, "You can handle this. You can grow through this. You can rise again." That voice is your true self, and it's waiting to be heard beneath the layers of distractions you've collected. Think of a typical day. You wake up, and before even saying a prayer or taking a deep breath, you reach for your phone. Messages, likes, updates, news, all start pouring into your mind, and that becomes your first meal of the day noise. You haven't even met yourself in the morning, and already you're meeting the world. You see someone's perfect photo, and suddenly your peace is gone. You read something negative, and your energy shifts. That's how quietly noise steals your focus and drains your strength. But those who build a mind that won't quit know the power of silence. They make it a daily practice. They start their mornings not with noise but with stillness. A few minutes to breathe, to reflect, to talk to themselves, to talk to the divine. They understand that silence is not a luxury, it's a necessity for clarity. It's in silence that the mind gathers strength to face the day. It's in silence that we stop reacting and start responding. There's a story of a worker who used to complain about how hard his job was. Every evening he returned home exhausted, mentally drained, always saying, "I can't do this anymore." One day, an old man told him, "Before you complain, sit in silence for 10 minutes after work. Don't think, don't speak, just sit." The worker laughed at the idea but tried it anyway. At first, those 10 minutes felt strange. His mind kept racing with thoughts, but slowly something changed. He began to feel lighter. The chaos of the day started to fade, and clarity returned. Over time, he realized his job hadn't changed. His mind had. The silence gave him the strength to continue, not by removing the challenges, but by calming his inner storm. You see, silence doesn't mean you stop speaking. It means you stop arguing with yourself. When your mind is noisy, every small difficulty feels like a mountain. But when your mind is quiet, even mountains seem climbable. In silence, you discover that the strength you were looking for outside has always been within you. You just couldn't hear it before. Start small. Begin with a few minutes each day. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and let the noise settle. Don't try to fight your thoughts. Let them pass like clouds moving across the sky. The sky doesn't chase the clouds, it simply allows them to drift away. Your mind is the same. When you stop engaging with every noise, every thought, you begin to return to your center. And from that center comes your calm, your focus, your strength. In silence, your relationship with life changes. You stop being controlled by what's outside you. The insults, the failures, the rejections, they lose their power because your peace no longer depends on them. You begin to see that the world will always have noise, but you don't have to let it live in you. Silence becomes your shield. And when silence lives in your heart, no amount of external chaos can break you. Practice, don't just perform. These words sound simple, but they hold the secret behind every truly successful life. We live in a world where everyone wants to be seen, where everyone wants to perform, but very few are willing to practice when no one is watching. The truth is, performance may impress the world, but practice transforms the person. The applause of the audience may give you excitement, but the silence of consistent effort gives you excellence. A mind that won't quit is not built on the stage. It's built behind the curtain, in the quiet hours when no one claps, no one notices, and no one praises. Think of a musician before a concert. The world sees the performance, the lights, the rhythm, the beauty of the melody, but they don't see the hours of practice behind it. The missed notes, the sore fingers, the moments of frustration when nothing sounded right. But the musician doesn't stop. Why? Because they understand that mastery is not a gift, it's a result of devotion. The same is true for life. Success doesn't come from doing great things occasionally. It comes from doing small things consistently. Many people want to achieve big goals, but they underestimate the power of small daily practice. They want the fruits without planting the seeds. But a farmer doesn't stand in the field and perform. He practices patience, care, and attention every day. He waters the soil even when nothing seems to be growing, because he knows the invisible work beneath the surface will one day bear fruit. Life works the same way. The work you do silently, reading, learning, training your thoughts, managing your emotions, that's the practice that prepares you for the moments when life demands performance. In today's fast world, everyone wants shortcuts. We want quick results, instant success, overnight fame. But nothing of true value is built instantly. Look at nature. Even a flower takes time to bloom, and the sun takes time to rise. Practice is that time in the dark before the dawn. It's what builds strength in silence. Every moment you spend refining your skills, improving your attitude, and deepening your understanding, you are building something unbreakable inside you. And one day, that inner strength becomes visible to the world. There's a beautiful story of a sculptor who spent months working on a statue. One day, a man walking by asked him, "You've been working on this same statue for weeks, but I don't see any progress." The sculptor smiled and said, "The changes I make are so fine that you can't see them now. But when it's finished, everyone will see the difference." That's what practice looks like. It's invisible progress that one day becomes visible excellence. When we focus only on performance, we become addicted to results. But when we focus on practice, we fall in love with the process. And that's where real growth begins. Performance is about proving yourself to others. Practice is about improving yourself for you. One comes from ego, the other from purpose. The more you practice, the quieter your ego becomes, and the louder your confidence grows. Consider an athlete preparing for a race. On the day of the competition, everyone watches the few minutes he runs. But no one sees the early mornings, the muscle pain, the days he ran in rain and wind, the nights he wanted to give up but didn't. That's practice. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred. It's in those unseen hours that champions are born. The athlete doesn't practice because someone's watching. He practices because he believes in his purpose. And that purpose gives his mind the discipline to keep going even when motivation disappears. In our daily lives, practice isn't only about skills. It's about the mind. Practicing patience when things don't go your way. Practicing gratitude when life feels unfair. Practicing kindness when someone tests your limits. Every moment is a chance to practice becoming a better version of yourself. These small practices may not seem like much, but they are silently shaping your destiny. Think of a worker who gives his best every single day, even when his efforts go unnoticed. He doesn't do it for recognition. He does it because he knows that excellence is not a moment, it's a mindset. One day, someone will notice. One day, that consistency will open a door that talent alone never could. But until then, he keeps practicing, showing up, learning, growing, because he knows that practice is progress even when it's invisible. The greatest mistake people make is thinking practice is preparation for the real thing. The truth is, practice is the real thing. The way you live every day becomes the way you perform in life. If you practice focus, gratitude, and self-control daily, you don't have to search for them when life gets tough. They're already a part of you. There was once a young man who went to a wise teacher and said, "I want to be successful. What's the secret?" The teacher smiled, handed him a cup, and said, "Keep filling it with water until I tell you to stop." The young man filled it, but the teacher didn't stop him. Soon the cup overflowed, spilling water everywhere. The teacher said, "That's your mind. It's full of hurry, full of expectation. Until you learn patience and consistency, you'll never be able to hold success." The young man understood that success isn't about how fast you work, it's about how deeply you practice. So, my friends, don't rush to perform. don't chase applause. Instead, fall in love with the quiet work no one sees. The real growth happens in the moments when no one is watching, when you're repeating the same steps again and again, refining, failing, learning. The stage may give you fame, but practice gives you strength. The stage may fade, but the lessons from practice stay forever. Work on days you don't feel like it. This is where the real difference between success and struggle lies. Anyone can work hard when they're inspired, but it takes an extraordinary mind to keep going when the fire fades. Life isn't built on motivation, it's built on discipline. Motivation is like a spark. It lights up quickly but burns out fast. Discipline is the steady flame that keeps glowing even when the winds of laziness, doubt, and tiredness blow against it. A mind that won't quit doesn't depend on moods, it depends on commitment. There will always be days when you feel low, days when your energy feels drained, your confidence feels missing, and your dreams seem too far away. These are the forever wondering days when you wonder why you even started, whether you're on the right path, and if all your efforts are worth it. Everyone faces such moments, but only a few rise above them. The secret isn't to avoid such days, but to act despite them. Because progress isn't made on the easy days, it's made on the hard ones, the days when you show up tired but still give your best. Think of a gardener. Some days, the weather is kind, the sun shines, the air is gentle. On those days, working in the garden feels like joy. But other days, it rains, it's muddy, and nothing seems to grow. Yet, a real gardener doesn't stop. He still waters the plants, still pulls out the weeds, still cares for the soil. Why? Because he knows that consistency, not comfort, creates growth. If he only worked on the good days, his garden would die. Life is exactly like that garden, and your effort is the water that keeps it alive. We often wait to feel ready. We tell ourselves, I'll start when I feel motivated, when things calm down, when I'm in a better mood. But that perfect moment never comes. Life will always be noisy, busy, uncertain. The ones who achieve something meaningful are not those who wait for the perfect mood. They create the mood through action. You don't have to feel great to do great things. You just have to start. The action itself generates the feeling. When you move, your mind follows. When you sit still, your mind sinks. There's a story of a writer who promised himself he'd write one page every day, no matter what. Some days, the words flowed beautifully. Other days, he stared at the page for hours, frustrated. But he still wrote, sometimes badly, sometimes brilliantly. Years later, he looked back and realized he had written an entire book. The world admired his masterpiece, but few knew the truth. It wasn't a burst of inspiration that created it. It was the decision to write even when he didn't feel like it. That's the power of persistence. When you work even on your dull days, you send a message to your own mind that you're in control. You teach yourself that your emotions are temporary, but your purpose is permanent. Each time you act despite resistance, you make your mind stronger. And slowly that strength turns into self-respect. Because deep inside, we all know when we're avoiding the work. We all feel the guilt of wasted potential. But when you choose discipline over comfort, that guilt transforms into pride. You go to bed knowing, I didn't give up today. And that feeling of quiet satisfaction becomes your reward. Think about athletes again. Not during their games, but during their training. There are mornings when their body hurts, when their mind screams to rest, when the bed feels softer than the running track. Yet they get up and train anyway, because they know that every skipped session creates weakness, and every completed one builds strength. They don't chase feelings, they chase growth. And the same principle applies to every area of life: career, relationships, health, spirituality. Consistency is the bridge that connects effort to achievement. Even in spiritual life, this principle holds true. There are days when meditation feels peaceful, and days when the mind refuses to stay still. But if you give up on the restless days, you'll never experience the depth that comes from persistence. Silence, discipline, prayer, learning, all these require showing up even when your heart feels scattered. The greatest growth happens when you continue in silence, when no one notices your effort, but you keep doing it anyway. Because you're not doing it for applause, you're doing it for alignment. Alignment with your purpose, your values, and your truth. We admire people who have achieved greatness, but we forget that behind their success lies a mountain of ordinary days filled with unglamorous effort. The painter who spent hours perfecting a single stroke, the entrepreneur who stayed awake solving problems when everyone else slept, the teacher who prepared lessons long after school hours. These are the moments that no one sees, yet they define everything. It's the invisible work that creates visible results. So, when you wake up tomorrow and feel like skipping your goal, skipping the workout, skipping the reading, skipping the effort, pause for a moment and remind yourself, this is the day that builds strength. These are the days that count. Because when you work, even when you don't feel like it, you build a character that doesn't depend on moods, opinions, or circumstances. You build a foundation that no failure can shake. The beauty of persistence is that it doesn't demand perfection, it only demands participation. You don't have to be your best every day, you just have to show up every day. Even your smallest effort matters. The drop of water may look weak, but it's that same drop that eventually shapes the stone. Every effort you make is shaping you, preparing you, strengthening you for what's next. A mind that won't quit is not a mind that never feels tired. It's a mind that knows how to keep moving through tiredness. The storm will come, emotions will fluctuate, but the decision to keep going must remain steady. Every time you rise despite your feelings, you prove that your spirit is stronger than your situation. Detach from the outcome, attach to the effort. These few words hold the secret to peace in a world full of pressure. Most of us live our lives chasing results. We measure our worth by achievements, our happiness by rewards, and our confidence by how others respond to our work. But the truth is, no matter how hard we try, the results are never fully in our control. You can plant the seed, but you can't command the rain. You can give your best effort, but you can't dictate the timing of success. A mind that won't quit learns to detach from the result and focus deeply on the process, trusting that what's meant to bloom will bloom in its own season. When we attach our happiness to outcomes, life becomes an emotional roller coaster. If things go our way, we feel proud and alive. But when they don't, we feel crushed, anxious, and worthless. Have you noticed how we start to define ourselves by success and failure? I succeeded makes us feel high, I failed makes us feel low. But success and failure are just two sides of the same coin. Both are temporary, both come and go. What truly defines us is not what we achieve, but who we become while striving. Think of a farmer again. He wakes up every morning, tills the land, plants the seeds, waters them faithfully, and waits. He doesn't scream at the sky asking why the harvest hasn't come yet. He knows that growth takes time, and that some seasons are kind, while others are cruel. But he keeps working anyway. He doesn't stop watering the field just because the rain didn't come yesterday. His focus is on effort, not on results. And one day the soil responds, the plants rise, the harvest arrives, not because of his impatience, but because of his patience. That's how we should approach life. Give your best to your work, your relationships, your dreams, and then let go. Don't suffocate your efforts with constant anxiety about outcomes. The flower doesn't bloom because it's desperate to impress the gardener. It blooms because it simply follows its nature. When you give your sincere effort with love, with integrity, and with faith, the outcome will eventually align. Maybe not in the way you imagined, but often in a way far wiser than you expected. There's a story about a young artist who painted beautiful works, but was never recognized. He grew bitter, feeling that his art was meaningless because no one appreciated it. One day, his mentor told him, "You paint for the world to see. But what if you painted simply for the love of painting? Would that make your art less valuable?" The artist began painting again, not for fame, not for applause, but for expression, for connection with his soul. Years later, his work gained immense recognition. But by then, he had already found peace, because he had learned that joy lies in creation, not in validation.